So for ingredients, we have venison, lamb, lamb green tripe, lamb heart, lamb liver, lamb kidney, ground lamb bone. Again, these are very, very specifically named ingredients. Instead of just grouping it all together and saying meat byproducts, they're telling you the animal that's used and the byproduct that's being used. Hey friends, it's Jess and Jericho. I say most dry cat food is garbage because most of it is. Even if you have good quality ingredients, it's still too low in moisture for cats. Cats rely on food for moisture. Just think about it like this. Would you survive and thrive if you ate dry cereal and that was it for your whole life? So I analyzed 80 dry cat foods. That way you have some options if you need to feed a little bit better quality than what you're currently feeding before you can go to wet or raw. If you don't understand AAFCO labeling requirements, you're not going to understand this video or any of my videos for that matter. So the first good quality dried food that we're going to look at is Ziwi Peak, and all of them fit under the dinner rule. So beef recipe, mackerel and lamb recipe, venison recipe, chicken recipe, lamb recipe. This is going to have minimum 25% of each of those named ingredients, maximum 94.9%. Let's take a look at the chicken recipe. So for the ingredients, we have chicken, chicken liver, chicken heart, New Zealand green mussel, chicken bone. So right there we have whole sources of chicken ingredients. Chicken liver, chicken heart, chicken bone. Those are technically byproducts, but instead of just saying poultry byproducts, they're saying chicken liver, chicken heart, chicken bone. And instead of saying fish meal, they say New Zealand green mussel. So you want to look for very specifically named ingredients. Kelp, which provides vitamins and minerals, and then we have some additional vitamins and minerals here. And you'll notice this list is much shorter than most kibbles, most dry cat foods. Again, the main difference here is that they're including whole sources and they're being very specific about the ingredients that they're using. The approximate carb amount on a dry matter basis here is 4%. Now again, this is approximate. We're using the guaranteed analysis numbers. So ASH, they actually list, which is 12%. And if we go back to the ingredients, that's all of these added vitamins and minerals. 12% is very high, but unfortunately, you're going to have vitamins and minerals added back to cooked foods. This is probably the lowest carb amount that you're going to find with all kibbles. The average among the 80 brands was 33%. This video is not sponsored, but I've included affiliate links as well as the ratings for each below. The next good quality dry food that we're going to look at is New Zealand Natural Pet Food Co. So just like Ziwi Peak, this one is air dried, which means instead of cooking and pressurizing it 3 times, they very gently cook the food using air. So again, this New Zealand Natural fits under the dinner rule, which is 25 to 94.9% of the named ingredients. Chicken and king salmon recipe, venison recipe, beef and hoki recipe. That word recipe is one of the descriptive words that fits under the dinner rule. So dinner, entree, recipe, platter, formula, nuggets, feast, all of those words, 25 to 94.9% maximum. You want to avoid with and flavor. Those ones are going to have less than 25% of the named ingredients. Let's take a look at venison recipe. So for ingredients, we have venison, lamb, lamb green tripe, lamb heart, lamb liver, lamb kidney, ground lamb bone. Again, these are very, very specifically named ingredients. Instead of just grouping it all together and saying meat byproducts, they're telling you the animal that's used and the byproduct that's being used. Lamb green tripe, lamb heart, lamb liver, lamb kidney, ground lamb bone. Those are excellent sources of meat ingredients that your cat needs. Then we have kelp, New Zealand green mussel. Again, instead of saying fish meal, they say New Zealand green mussel. Honey, rosemary, coconut oil, hoki oil. Hoki oil is very specific. Instead of saying fish oil, they say hoki oil. This is the fish that we're using. And then they have minimal amounts of the added vitamins and minerals. And we use the guaranteed analysis numbers again to come up with an approximate amount of carbs. For this one, it's about 24%. That's much higher than cats need. So let's take a look at the ingredients to see where these carbohydrate sources might be coming from. I'm thinking green tripe because that's the lining of the stomach of ruminant animals, and ruminant animals are herbivores. So there's going to be small amounts of plant material in there from the lamb's meal. Kelp is probably another source, maybe honey. protein. But considering that there's a lot of meat ingredients, I think that the protein is actually higher and the fat is probably higher as well. These are listed on a minimum. So the absolute minimum is 40% protein, but it could be higher. Same with fat. It could be higher than 20%. And ash isn't even listed. Again, these numbers are approximate. I think that the carb amount is much lower considering that there's no real big sources of carbohydrates or starchy foods in this product. The next good quality dry food we're going to look at is Dr. Elsie's Clean Protein. This one is a kibble, so cooked and pressurized, not like the air-dried foods that I just showed you. So this one actually has chicken recipe, duck recipe, rabbit recipe, turkey recipe, then with salmon. So this word with right here means somewhere between 3 and 24.9% salmon, but these recipes mean 25% to 94%. See, that's why it's important to understand AFCO product name rules, because if you don't understand these rules, then you don't really understand how much of these meat ingredients are actually in the product. So we're going to look at the turkey recipe. So we have in the ingredients turkey, dried chicken, dried egg product, gelatin that's derived from pork protein isolate, chicken fat, and then later down the list we have dried chicken liver, salmon oil. So instead of saying fish oil, they tell you salmon. Now this one doesn't have a lot of organs and bones in it, but again, they're not saying meat byproducts or poultry byproducts. They're telling you exactly what they're using. So this is much better than what you're going to see in most kibbles. Here we have a lot more added vitamins and minerals. As I stated, it's cooked and pressurized, so there's going to be some nutrient loss. Additionally, they're not using a tremendous amount of organs and bones, so they need to make up for those nutrient losses with vitamins and minerals. There's dried chickpeas, not really appropriate for cats, but you're gonna find inappropriate ingredients in all dry cat foods, and quite frankly, most wet cat foods as well. When we use the guaranteed analysis numbers to come up with the approximate carb amount, it's 3% approximately on a dry matter basis. So this is actually fewer than Ziwi and New Zealand Natural. However, I would prefer Ziwi Peak and New Zealand Natural just because they use more meat ingredients, meat organs and bones. So the longer list of the vitamins and minerals aren't as necessary because they're using whole sources of proteins that cats need. But again, this is still much better than most kibble that you find online. So the next one is the best runner-up, and it's Orion, and I'm sure a lot of you are jumping for joy right now because a lot of you asked me about this brand in the comments. So I want to include it, but I want to make a note here. The product name says made with regional red meats. That word with right there means between 3 and 24.9%. Now this is a Canadian brand, but Canada uses AFCO's rules. But of course, I want to give you options, and this is definitely much better than most kibbles. So fresh Angus beef meat, fresh wild boar meat, fresh plains bison meat, Yorkshire pork meat, beef liver, boar liver, beef tripe, eggs, lamb, herring, sardine, mutton is sheep, pork. So there's a lot of meat ingredients. Later down the list, we have pork liver, cod, lamb tripe, beef tripe, lamb tripe. The reason I say runner-up is because of that word with. Now they actually list the percentages of each of the meat ingredients, and it adds up to about 70%. So I'm not really sure why it says made with instead of, all of these meats and then recipe or dinner or entree or platter, because based on AFCO's rules, that word with means 3 to 24.9%. But that 70% also includes some of the ingredients that aren't listed on the label. Maybe that's why they have to use the with rule. Another reason I'm saying runner-up is because the approximate carb amount on a dry matter basis is 26%, and that's very high. Don't get me wrong, that's still much, much lower than the majority of the kibbles online. And you can see in the ingredients they have lentils, green peas, lentil fiber, whole chickpeas, yellow peas, pinto beans, and then later down the list they have pumpkin, butternut squash. It's great that they're using whole foods for sources of vitamins and minerals and some nutrients that might be lacking in the meat ingredients. That way they're not relying on a long list of, like a chemistry experiment list of synthetic vitamins and minerals. That's great, but it's going to contribute to carbohydrate sources, and carbohydrates are not appropriate for cats. But this is still much lower than most of the dry kibbles that you see online. So of course I want to include it, give you some options. These are the best dry cat foods that I've found among all of the 80 brands that I've analyzed that are available online. But if these don't work for you, I've also included some runner-ups links in the description below. If those don't work for you, look at the product page. Use that to compare as an example of what to look for when you are shopping for something that works for you. And you can upgrade your Kibble with this video right over Mya. Thanks for watching.